So I was asked to talk to you about the recent developments in Elder network and the Elder research infrastructure. And I'm doing that by presenting you first a little bit about the background and concepts which might be familiar to you already before. And then I'm going to guide you through what happens in the next 5 years in the research community that is involved in developing this Elder RI. I have prepared these slides together with a lot of people, and I'm using similar slides which we have been developing for example, the ESRI roadmap hearing and other public appearances, so you might have seen at least some of the slides before. So I'm Jaana. I'm a host currently located at the University of Helsinki in Finland, and I'm the coordinator of the Elder Plus, which is an advanced community project funded by the European Commission. And I'm the co-chair of this ESRI process because we have two major projects ongoing. The other project is the preparatory phase project that is led by Michael Gettel, who is the chair of the Europe and the co-chair of ITER as well currently. I don't know how I can get rid of this top line. Maybe I don't need to get rid of that. So first of all, I wanted to introduce to the little bit the background how Elder has defined its scientific role and scope and concepts. And we've been working in several projects earlier with you, many of you, and you know that we have been trying to capture the essential identity, what Elder can provide to the scientific community. And to do that, we have been working on, for example, identifying the grand challenges, using different kinds of grand challenge classifications from US, from European Commission, and from International Council for Science unions. And we have found out that we are able and we will be able to address issues dealing with, for example, climate change and greenhouse gases, biodiversity and land use change, pollution, eutrophication, and then important part of the work in Elder in European context has been the sustainable management of natural resources and the socio-ecology, so the so-called S part of our concept. From this, we have been then developing the core, what scientific community can use as a theoretical background in describing what Elder does. And we have developed this kind of three-dimensional figure introducing the two main different concepts. So the press pulse dynamic concept, which is not spatially limited, it can happen anywhere. And then the other one, which is the macrosystems ecology, which is spatially nested and can scale up and down from different processes. So we call this the whole systems approach. And this is the scientific concept what we are working on. And we can illustrate that also by putting on top of each other is kind of plates that are taking account the different kinds of spheres. So vertically from the bottom, geosphere, hydrosphere, biosphere, sociosphere, and atmosphere. And we want to address many research communities that are dealing with these different disciplines and different spheres. Currently, the Elder Europe network is providing a setup of different site categories. And here these vertical lines illustrate how these different site categories address these different domains. So, for example, master sites are expected to cover at least partially all these 5 different spheres. Whereas when you go to a less limited or more limited setting, like regular sites, they don't necessarily need to cover all of them in full capacity, but they should be covering at least some parts of these observations and sites. And the largest scale is the LTSER platforms that should be very strongly focusing on, of course, the social and economic sphere. So the site categories are different in their focus on different system layers. And what ELTER will then provide is the basic site infrastructure. So it's a site-specific network. It will be providing data nodes that are providing tools for example, harmonizing the observations and providing access to many so far less accessible data sources like legacy data, for example, from long-term sites. And of course, user access to data and sites. And in this way, we will be working on continuous long-term operation of more than 200 innovative hubs. A site could look like this, for example. So it can vary in size and scope, but it should be spatially limited. It should be able to follow the inputs and outputs and the processes and systems that are located at the site level. So the main drivers of change of these inputs and outputs, and also the interactions of different kinds of disturbances like droughts or social system changes. And what ELTER very strongly emphasizes is that ELTER RI will not need to do everything itself. It clearly aims at co-location and using the existing facilities and capacities, like, for example, co-location with ICOS sites in observing the atmosphere and greenhouse gases, or co-location with experimental sites. ELTER is part of the international ELTER network, and that's the ELTER, ILTR, and currently we have been very strongly working towards being more engaged to scaling up from site data to global Earth system observations. And for that purpose, we have been negotiating with GEO, the Global Earth Observation System, that ILTER and ELTER would be considered as the key in situ data provider. And we would be providing validation, verification, and calibration to Earth observation data products. This is ongoing process, and there will be more to learn on that in coming years. But I'm just saying that even now, last week, when Mikael Mittel is currently in Australia, there's negotiations ongoing how in practice this could be done. So this is the background, and then what comes next in the future. I already mentioned that we have 2 projects started right 1 month ago, early February, that are funded by the Commission from the Horizon 2020 program framework. The research and development will be dealt with in the ELTER Plus and coordinated by me, and the infrastructure development aiming at formalizing the structures, getting commitments from countries, and creating a sustainable operation mode will be dealt with the ELTER PPP, that is the preparatory phase project. They both are 5 years projects, and they both have about close to 50 participating organizations. I'm not quite sure at this point how many we end up in the end. It's still been a little bit varying. Looking at a little bit about the history, the elements of the Elder Europe network and the RI development. The foundation is, of course, the Elder Europe network that has been already existing since more than 10 years. It currently has 26 countries as part of the national networks, more than 400 sites, and about 35 LTSER platforms. And that's the European contribution to the international ILTR network. What happened then is that some of these countries then created consortia that have been participating earlier already in the Elder Horizon 2020 project, and currently these two new projects, Plus and PPP. We have 27 countries. That means that there are some partners that were not yet even part of the network, but are now currently being willing to come part of the process in Europe. And the Elder S3 process, which you might have seen and in my slides always also appears, is the current European infrastructure roadmap process. For that purpose, Elder provided or submitted a proposal in 2018 and was accepted as part of the roadmap. During that process, we had 19 countries signing up in an official ministerial level letter for their political support, and 160 memoranda of understanding from organizations signing up to the scientific concepts. So from these maps, it's clear that it has a wide dispersal in Europe, lots of support in many levels, both from scientific communities and the political organizations and ministries. And what will happen is that the Elder network will be the basis where the sites and platforms will be recruited, and the S3 process and the PPP project will be providing tools for the sites and platforms for their standardization and formalization process. So that's the current situation. The conceptual framework of Elder, I've been already mentioning that it is in situ, so it is site-specific location of observations. Long-term is one of the key words also. Process-oriented, so trying to find the causes and consequences of changes and then applying the scientific concept whole systems approach. They are the fundamental pillars what we have been implementing. This figure was part of the proposals for the PPP and Plus projects, and I don't go into details in that, but it wants to give the view on how these two projects operate together. So you can see the gear wheels in between these two projects. And the meaning of the gear wheels is that when the Plus has the scientific communities engaged and testing the capacities of the sites that are engaged and involved, there will be certain elements that are directly translated to a sustainable research infrastructure organization and content and design. For example, the standard observation variables that will be tested and discussed in the Plus part will be then put in place in the PPP part on the left-hand side. And data services, for example, are very strongly in focus of the PLUS project, and they will be directly feeding to the requirements and possibilities how this is going to organize then at the European scale. So we are in a very good position when we have these two projects funded at the same time, because we can have constant interface and dialogue between scientific community and then the ministries and organizational level, how to make it happen in reality. But it of course requires quite some coordination, and that is now our challenge, especially with these corona times, when we were supposed to have in 3 weeks the kickoff meeting in Mallorca, which will very likely face some severe limitations for traveling from many countries. So we are currently considering how to organize it so that the projects can still start their work efficiently. The time plan of the processes is illustrated here. So we are now in the 2020 when the two projects have started. And when they end, we hope that there will be already a decision made on elder legal entity. So how the sustainable use and operations will be organized. The sites that are going to be part of elder RI will be coming in gradually. You can see them in these NRI phases. So we don't expect that everybody should be ready to implement the services and parameters, for example, from the day one. We are prepared that there will be different phases when the sites are ready. The PLUS project has several aims: advancing access on sites and data, harmonizing the protocols for observations, different methodologies, data structures already existing, and new pilot cases will be done. We will be piloting co-location and co-design, especially with ICOS. There is a training program being planned for site managers and PIs, and also engaging different stakeholders on site level. And new methods and tools will be developed and disseminated. I have mentioned already the framework of standard observations, and here is the rough categorization of these standard observations. So they deal with measurements that are key for understanding the ecosystem integrity, that have high sensitivity to any changes that happen by man-made or by natural drivers, and then also have critical relevance for any kind of upscaling and modeling purposes. And these six buckets of boxes of observations will then be developed during these projects. What we aim is simplicity and parsimony, so not making it too strict and complex to be joining in, but still being able to have harmonized and standardized data sets. Also for legacy data, not only data that is currently being collected, but also many sites have been existing already for 100 years. So we aim at pooling together all this legacy data as well, and making it, curating and making it available for the communities. In the preparation phase, when we were putting together the proposals, we tested these
standard observation schemes with several sites, and these pies are showing you 3 different sites. I don't even know which sites they are, and how well they currently are covering the requirements that were put on the table in the questionnaire. Maybe some of you already have responded to this questionnaire, which was done by Stefan Zacharias some years ago. So you can see from these pies that some sites are fulfilling very well many of the different categories, but some are clearly lacking, for example, issues or measures dealing with biodiversity or energy budget. And that's then the issue how to upgrade the sites that want to be part of ELTER to cover the necessary variables and observations. The model we plan to have is looking something like this. So there is this pool of European ELTER sites, about 400 sites, which will then be upgraded or labeled as ELTER RI sites based on the decisions that the national organizations are making. And for example, in a country A, you could have a spatial assemblage of sites like this. So there would be one platform, ELTER platform, where several regular sites and one master site is located, and then there would be several sites outside of this platform that are contributing to the RI as well. So it's still undergoing discussion how these site categories will be defined, and this is work to be done in the PLUS and PPP projects. The PLUS project, when it's an advanced community project, it has a transnational access scheme. So there are about 50 sites that are offering either transnational or virtual access. And I've listed here the French sites that are listed here in the project that would be offering during the project transnational or virtual access. Virtual access means offering the access to harmonized data sets, and transnational access means offering the physical access to the sites. The PPP project, on the other hand, then is formalizing the design, the organization, and the vision and strategic part, and it has to work in several different layers. So from the institutional layer, asking the organizations whether they will be supporting the sites sustainably, and how they are going to, for example, offer the access and engage users. Then there comes the national level, which is then up to the national organizations, how the national roadmaps are supporting the strategy, and then the European level coordination and governance and services will be developed. The PPP will end up then into a structure which might look like this, that there is a head office hosted by, currently the anticipation is that it would be hosted by Germany, but that of course is under the, it will be open call for the host. Then there would be thematic service areas that would be located in very likely other countries than Germany, focusing, for example, on quality assurance for data or tools for modeling and analysis the data, preparing synthesis and interoperability tools, and innovation and technology development. But these are also still in the discussion and planning. And this would be then the elder legal entity and the central services, and each of the sites would be hosted by member countries, so they would be not legally binding to the central services. There will be negotiations on contracts done by the sites. Currently, the situation for the political support looks like this. So the dark blue is those countries that are already providing the political support, and then some other countries have been providing either scientific or financial support, and there are several countries that are under negotiations for becoming a part of the elder RI process. For example, Ireland, Ukraine, Turkey, and Lithuania. My next few slides are then trying to summarize what is the purpose for elder, or the benefits for the societies and communities of joining and being part of elder. First of all, securing excellence in science. That should be upfront, topmost priority on all these research infrastructures by definition. So they should be supporting science. They should be offering tools and long-term sustainability for providing best scientific knowledge. They should be training scientists and students and site managers. What comes as a selling point to the national organizations and ministries, of course, is that there's tools for bringing science closer to societal decision-making and bringing the scientific information more visible and harmonized and credible. Bringing new users for sites is important, both national and international users for sites, but also for data. And then science-based solutions for key questions that are tackled at the moment for societies. For scientific communities also, the collaboration possibilities are important. So experimentation and observations are more efficient when they are done together, when there are feedbacks between different domains, analysis on larger scales, and upscaling and downscaling are possible. And new methods are developed. Maybe industries are engaged to developing them, and then improved data flows and synergies in use of the data. So they all are very nice words and good things. We can also monetize this economic impact. We can have upstream impact, which means that the cumulative investments in upgrading and equipping the sites is something that we can quantify. We can also quantify what kind of jobs for example, technical staff can be created in these elder sites. We can quantify the development of novel tools and instruments across the numerous sites that we will have. And then, of course, the more reliable ground truthing and service development with remote sensing. They all are investments to build the research infrastructure. Then investments on downstream or impacts on downstream are, of course, related to how well the research infrastructure will operate. What kind of long-term data will be provided and how it will be used in publications. How the sites will be forming part of the already existing observation schemes and contributing, for example, to long-term reporting on climate change or environmental integrity. impact on local and regional decision making, planning at local scale, and then jobs and training for long-term teams working with the sites or the data. So lots of different kinds of impacts are expected. And the challenge is, of course, to make them then reality. I will then show you some slides on elder in France. And of course, you know this much better than I do. So please forgive me if I'm mistaken on something, or if I'm telling you something that you know it's not true. I obtained some of the slides from Nicolas Arnaud, who was presenting them on our shareholder meeting in Berlin earlier this year. So in France, Elder has been combining or joining forces between two earlier not so closely connected communities, Ozcar and the Jeune Atelier. And what will French Elder bring to the European Elder community? Of course, the coverage of the French land area is important. France is an important country, both population-wise, economic-wise, and in many disciplines in Europe. And you have very good platforms existing already, long-term investments ongoing, and highly instrumented sites. For example, in river areas, in mountain areas, and agricultural areas. You have already been working with integrating the stakeholders and dissemination needs, and we have several examples already presented in our hearing for the Commission on how the socio-economic value of a research infrastructure network can be actually concretely shown. So the current understanding is that France will be really crucial and important element in the European elder community in the future, as it is currently as well. This was one of the examples from Nicolas Arnaud. So he was taking an example from Brittany, where there is a test for master site of elder research infrastructure dealing with nitrogen pollution, water quality, and soil quality, and the two communities working efficiently together. So it's something that all the countries should try to or strive to manifest and get examples of good collaboration that is already existing, and encourage people to work together. I took a couple of slides from the DIMES to just show you what DIMES has to offer. DIMES is the dynamic site registry, where all these 400 and plus sites in Europe are listed and identified. But it also, in addition to this metadata of sites, it also contains some quite nice examples of data. For example, here is this Eurocordex estimates on projected daily maximum near surface air temperature or precipitation changes that would happen when the forecasts of the climate change are considered. And the same example for the Larzac site. I think you maybe visited this site yesterday. So DIMES is not only a metadata registry, it's also possible to share data through DIMES, and this will be further developed in our Elder Plus project. Nicolas Arnaud summed together what the benefits are for being one of the Elder France, what is the leverage. he summarized that in 2018 the community had obtained 400 funded research grants in 100 sites that are embedded in 14 of these LTSER platforms. The outcome has been more than 550 science papers, 3 ERC grants since 2016, and then also added funding for innovative equipment and upgrading the sites, about 13 million euros. I guess this is national funding. That's what I understood. And of course, you have been opening the sites for TNA activities in earlier projects as well. And we'll be continuing to do that in the next times. Then, as one good selling point which we are currently developing is the possibility of being engaged to other projects that are funded by other means, either national or European. One example is the project Life Plan, which is dealing with harmonized biodiversity observations across the planet, so everywhere on the globe. And we made a contract with the Life Plan project that the elder sites will be providing harmonized data and will be able to provide also workforce and additional auxiliary data for the project. So currently, I just checked that the University of Montpellier and University of Rennes are at least listed at the moment in the Life Plan tentative sites for the Life Plan. We have about 20 sites across Europe that have been now negotiated. Life Plan will be providing 5 different biodiversity observation methods and then collecting data, providing the data as pooled data sets. So the sites can benefit from learning from experts how to do the biodiversity data observations and then also getting publications, of course, from the data that are pooled globally. Another example is the eShape project that is part of the EuroGeo initiative, and elder sites also, several elder sites belong to the eShape piloting exercises that are led by UFZ in Europe. And then the last one is just what I mentioned earlier already, this CEOS, Committee on Earth Observation Satellites, remote sensing verification and calibration activities that ELDER will now be putting together the set of sites that are capable of joining in and contributing to the remote sensing activities. So I think this is my last slide, and I'm quoting here Michael, who is always showing this last one, and I think it's a very good slogan for us to continue working together, because we all want to go far, not just fast. I'm thanking you for your patience, and if there's possibility to answer some questions, I'm happy to do that, but I don't know how you, in practice, do you have microphones or what?
Jaana, can you hear me?
Yes. Cool.
Yeah, so we have the opportunity to take questions. Maybe I will have to reformulate the questions because I'm close to the computer.
Yeah.
So do we have questions? lunchtime, and apparently they're very hungry. No questions at all? So we can... Okay, so there is no question. Jaana, you've been so clear that everything is perfect in our minds. Thank you very much for this. It was a perfect presentation, and thank you for saying so much good things about our networks. We appreciate. And see you. I don't know when, but at the kickoff probably. Depends.
At least remotely.
Yeah, it depends on the virus, which is.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Enjoy your conference last hours, and I'm again apologizing that I could not be there. It would have been a wonderful opportunity to meet you, but next time then.
Yeah, you've missed superb instrumentation sites, and you've missed a summer day yesterday.
Yeah. I would have needed the summer. That would have been wonderful.
Okay, bye-bye, and thank you again.
Okay, bye.